Okay, I thought we were going live. What is going on? And everyone, try to keep your mics mute when you're not speaking, please.
Like now?
Yes. Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone, to People Before Politics. This is the host for today's show, Dr. Bob. Many of our regular viewers will notice that we did not have our usual intro. You'll forgive me for any kind of that technical challenge and any others that may arise during the course of tonight's show. Unfortunately, as many of you who are regular viewers of the show know, AJ Woodson will not be with us today. Unfortunately, AJ is out of town to mourn the passing of his father. His dad passed away sometime earlier this week. And so on behalf of all of my co-hosts and all of the viewers of the show, I'd like to extend my heartfelt condolences to my man, AJ. I hope that your faith allows you to overcome this time of mourning in your life, and that you may take strength from the memories of your father as you look to confront the challenges of your own time, AJ. So I'm sure all of the viewers are joining me right now and offering you well wishes, brother. I'll see you when you get home. So everyone, that explains why we didn't have our usual intro. You're going to forgive me. I thought it would play automatically. So again, today's show is going to be a two-part segment. In the first hour, everyone, we're going to be focusing on the issue of the Alzheimer's disease that it afflicts on populations here in Westchester County and throughout the United States. And joining me, the second hour is devoted to the candidacy of a Central Islip resident who's running for council office by the name of Darren Green. Brother Green is a close friend of Damon Jones, and anticipate Damon joining the two of us on air at 7 o'clock. So without further ado, hopefully I'm going to get this right. Let me introduce tonight's guest for our first segment. Let me begin by introducing Shirley Maurice, who is the president of the Church Women's United, I believe, of Westchester, or a local chapter here in Westchester. We're also joined on air by Maura Riley, who's the head of the local chapter of the Alzheimer's Association here in Westchester. And then finally, everyone, we have Judy William Davis, who is, of course, a mainstay in Mount Vernon civic life. And amongst other things, today is donning her hat as a member of the Church Women's United group. So, ladies, welcome, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you join me on air today.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Absolutely, ladies. So, listen, there are a lot of diseases that afflict communities in the United States, as the COVID epidemic has surely revealed to us. One that is frequently discussed year in and year out is Alzheimer's. And to start the discussion off, I'd like to get a sense, Ms. Riley, what is the exact extent and scope of Alzheimer's in the in the United States as a whole, and maybe in particular, its numbers within the Black community, particular in specific.
Thanks so much, Dr. Bob. I'm happy to address those points. I do want to say first, though, I'm not the head of the Hudson Valley chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. I'm just a volunteer, but a very passionate one at that. So I do appreciate the promotion. But yes, I am on the committee, the planning committee for the Westchester Walk to End Alzheimer's, as well as an advocate for the in the 16th Congressional District for the Alzheimer's Impact Movement, which engages with policymakers on Alzheimer's related issues. So, but lots of great people at the Hudson Valley chapter, and I'll talk more about how you can get info from them if you're interested in learning more about Alzheimer's. So I do want to say, though, it's super timely to have this discussion, not just because the Walk to End Alzheimer's they're starting to happen around in communities all around the country, including here in Westchester on October 3rd, but also because next Tuesday, September 21st, is actually World Alzheimer's Day. So I do want to definitely talk about the walk, but I think you're absolutely right. It's a good idea to start at the beginning and share a little bit more about the disease, its impact on the Black community, and I could share a little bit about some resources that are available. So what is Alzheimer's disease? Well, it's the most common cause of dementia, which is a general term for memory loss and other cognitive abilities serious enough to interfere with daily life. So Alzheimer's disease is not the only cause of dementia, but it does account for 60 to 80% of dementia cases. Currently, more than 6 million Americans are living with the disease. I think more staggeringly and kind of scary is the fact that this number is projected to double, to more than double even, to about 13 million people by 2050, which is, less than 30 years now. Alzheimer's disease has a kind of a funny name. So just to address that one out the gate, it was named for a German physician, Dr. Alois Alzheimer's, who described in 1901 a peculiar disease that was characterized by profound memory loss and microscopic brain changes. So we've really known about Alzheimer's for over a century. But certainly I would say our understanding of it has rapidly advanced especially in recent years. Definitely want to underscore that Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. The greatest known risk factor is, in fact, increasing age, and the majority of people with Alzheimer's are 65 and over. But there is also younger onset Alzheimer's, so it's possible that it could affect a person under 65, though it's a lot less common in this demographic. Another key factor about Alzheimer's is that it worsens over time. It's what they call a progressive disease, where dementia symptoms gradually worsen over a number of years. In the early stages, memory loss may be quite mild and subtle, but as the disease progresses into late stage, individuals do eventually lose the ability to carry on conversations or respond to their environments in various ways. Again, Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. It affects women a lot more than men. On average, a person with Alzheimer's lives about 4 to 8 years after diagnosis, but they can live as long as 20 years, but they do see their quality of life degrade over time. And currently, Alzheimer's has no cure, which is why we walk. And that's something we hope will change soon. There are some promising therapies in development currently. And there's one new therapy that has certainly broken the news cycle and a couple of weeks ago that seems to be effective and reduce some of the cognitive and functional declines in people living with Alzheimer's in the earlier stages. There was a bit of controversy in the FDA about whether or not about its efficacy, but we still view it as a positive step in the Alzheimer's community. But we're of course hoping for something more definitive and a cure as soon as possible. But in terms of its effect on the Black community, so I would say that it's somewhat of a silent epidemic, and maybe it's not so silent anymore, and maybe that's good that there's awareness being raised through things like this radio show. Again, thank you so much for having us on. But both in the Black community and among African Americans as well as Hispanic Americans, it is kind of can go under the radar. And what I mean by that is, if you take a look at the numbers at face value around Alzheimer's disease, you might notice that a majority of the more than 6 million Americans with Alzheimer's disease are white. Again, that's hard numbers, but you really need to pull the curtain back a bit. And when you do that, you'll see that most of the evidence indicates that African Americans are 2 times more likely than white Americans to have Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. That figure for Hispanic Americans is 1.5 times more likely. How do we know that? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something, Dr. Bob? Okay. How do we know this information? So there was a study that was conducted, the Aging Demographics and Memory Study, which was among the first population-based studies of dementia in the U.S., funded by the National Institute of Aging. And this found that the proportion of Americans aged 71 and older with Alzheimer's and other dementias was 10 percentage points higher in the African American community than among white Americans. And this fact is compounded because African Americans are less likely than white Americans to be diagnosed for a whole host of reasons that public health practitioners do tend to call the social determinants of health, those conditions in the places where people live, learn, work, play that affect a wide range of health risks and contribute, unfortunately, to inequities in health outcomes that we see as we do in Alzheimer's. But certainly you could devote a whole dissertation and more and multiple seminars on the social determinants of health and their impact. But I just wanted to bring that up in the context as a way of thinking about Alzheimer's in the Black community. But so we know that those diagnosis rates for Alzheimer's disease in the Black community are lower, which underscores awareness efforts. But even when African Americans are diagnosed with the disease, they're typically diagnosed later on in later stages of the disease. And that means that at those later stages, they're more cognitively and physically impaired. So there's more need for medical treatment, and the treatment options might, quite frankly, be more limited. And that definitely needs to change. So early detection is very critical. And it's really concerning some of the survey data that groups like Alzheimer's Association and other researchers have out there about the issue of late diagnosis and the importance of early detection. But I do also want to be clear too that there's no evidence that says that anything genetic predisposes certain racial or ethnic groups to Alzheimer's disease or dementia. It's really the higher prevalence of those risk factors, things like high blood pressure, diabetes, the other vascular conditions that may account for this difference. It's not totally clear in the scientific literature, but that is the hypothesis. And the higher prevalence of those risk factors does tie back into the social determinants of health. So I guess I'll stop talking. That was a long monologue. Thank you for the opportunity to share that. Dr. Bob, I think you're on mute.
Yes.
Sorry about that, everyone. Trying to take my own back. So we'll circle back to you a little bit, Ms. Fowler, to talk about the actual causes of social determinants of Alzheimer's and other diseases that afflict the African American community. But I want to ask, so it seems like there's actually no shortage of members of the Black community who may well be suffering from Alzheimer's. And so that naturally leads me to ask Shirley and Judy how you guys actually got involved in the fight against Alzheimer's disease. As it turns out, about 10 years or more ago, my grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and started to experience significant cognitive decline herself. Many of us know what those kind of symptoms include. Things about forgetting memory, frequent confusion. I'm curious, Shirley, how you and the other women with the Church United women got involved in the fight against Alzheimer's, and what's the personal connection?
Well, first of all, most of the women in Church Women United are senior citizens, and they fall within that category. You know, I think Maura mentioned that there is more aged individuals that will have Alzheimer's than younger people. So most of the women in Church Women United are, I would say, at least 60 and above. And because of this, we felt, because we are a group of individuals who try to keep the individuals that are in our group informed. Because when we were founded in 1941, it was a movement of Christian women who had a vision of unity and prayer for action, and with emphasis on prayer for action, because we can still pray, but if we don't do something with the prayers that we are praying, nothing really happens. So we tried our very best to keep our individuals informed. And several of our members did have, still have our Alzheimer's disease. What I want to bring attention to is that it appears that the environment plays a major part for as the caretakers who take care of these individuals. For instance, the 4 individuals that I am fully aware of, they are at home with their relatives. They take care of them. One of them was in a nursing facility, and her relative took her out, and she appears to be more comfortable and doing better, you know, in the environment of the home, a home-like environment than she was doing in a nursing facility. So I would be curious, Maura, you know, if we had any type of data, or maybe if we would be able to get some data on if the environment itself, you know, if they are in the home or with their loved ones, with their relatives, rather than being in a nursing facility or rehab, you know, would extend their life, or would make them more comfortable, or would they be able to relate to individuals better? So that's how we got involved, because we want to be educators. We want to educate people, the caretakers if their family members are taking care of them, educate them on what they need to do in order to make them comfortable, educate them on what type of symptoms their loved ones might, you know, have to express, or how they do it, what goes on in their lives on a daily basis. So that is how we got involved, because we want to be as helpful and as knowledgeable as we can, because the same thing that has happened to some of our members certainly may happen to us. We may be one of those individuals someday. So the better educated you are, I believe that you are better in a position to help them, and also be able to keep the word moving as we move forward.
So, Miss Shirley, before we continue and go into some of the specifics about Alzheimer's, I'm curious if you'll say a little bit more about Church Women United.
Absolutely, absolutely. Church Women United was formed in 1941 as a movement of Christian women, as I said before, who had a vision of unity and prayer for action, and with emphasis on the prayer for action. We believed, they believed, and we still do believe in doing something with the situation that we have, rather than just being there. We believe in taking some action of how to fix it if we can. And we also want to recognize that Eleanor Roosevelt involved the Church Women United in United Christian Women's Conference. And it was her desire and her purpose to let us share in the post-war policymaking and we still do that today. Church Women United is affiliated with the United Nations. We are in one of the NGOs of the United Nations, and we also are a partner with the farm workers unit, and we do our very best to not only support in missions that are not in our community, but we also support missions that in our own community, because it is the vision of Church Women United, because we are women of faith and we like to cultivate love, hope, and peace for all creations. Our mission is to be inclusive in ecumenical Christian women's movement. We celebrate unity and empower women to work toward a world of peace and justice. And I'm sure that you all know that in today's world, we need to be working harmoniously for peace and justice. And we have been around for about 80 years, and we continue to do our very best to promote the visions that they was initially founded upon. And each day we celebrate, each year rather, we celebrate a World Day of Prayer. And in this World Day of Prayer, we come together as women and we pray for the entire world. As long as there is a need, we offer up a prayer. We also have a Human Rights Day where we support and we involved and we initiate the fight of rights for all human beings, We also have a World Community Day where we have justice and a study of peace for all women on this day. And we try to unite them, because in Church Women United, in our unit, we have 16 different denominations. So it's not just one denomination. Our focus is, if you are a Christian and you have Christian beliefs, then that is what we focus on. We also, as I mentioned earlier, that we are a non-government organization of the United Nations. And we know that this week, the United Nations met, and Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, she focused on the United States priorities during this gathering that they had at the United Nations. And also there was a press conference where she talked about the COVID, what we as United Nations plan to do for the COVID. She also talked about our relationship with our global communities. So as you see, Church Women United, we are involved in quite a number of events, and we have the world in focus. We have a day that we celebrate each Monday when the Nigerian girls was taken as hostages. And I think that 239 of them have already been returned back to their families. We were supportive of that effort. We prayed for them constantly, and we were grateful when they was able to come back to their parents again. And we have 4 initiatives over a 4-year period, starting in 2021. Our initiative this year that we're focusing on is health and wellness. And certainly we know that the COVID crisis that falls under the health and wellness, and we are doing our part in educating our individuals. We are doing our part in being supportive, and keep telling and wash your hands, use your mask. That is a message that we constantly tell our members. And we're also going to be next year focusing on the climate and the stewardship. Following that, we will focus on social justice. And following that, we will focus on hunger and poverty. And all of these initiatives that we have, Church Women United in Mount Vernon is doing their part in helping our community to carry out these awareness of these initiatives and also support them. I just want to mention a few of the initiatives that we have taken on for the past year, which was our initiatives. We provided the Wartburg community with cards. We know that when you are in a nursing home and sometimes individuals don't come to see you, your family or your friends, you have no one that will come in and smile at you, or no one who will come in and say a kind word to you. So the Wartburg community, who as our member, Sister Judy Williams Davis, is also on the board there, brought it to our attention that these individuals could use some cheering up. So our members got together and we made cards and we gave the individuals who do not have relatives or friends to come to see them a cheering up card. And it made a difference in their day. So we thank Sister Judy Williams Davis for her contact and letting us know that. And we went to work. That is prayer with action, putting some of our prayers into action. Also, I'm sure many of you remember when there was an individual who had taken a pair of socks from one of the merchants in Mount Vernon without paying for them. So when the law enforcement officers was called in to arrest him, what the officer did, he paid for the socks rather than taking him to jail, which was a wonderful act of faith and a wonderful act of courage. So our unit recognized that there may be other individuals who don't have socks, are not able to purchase socks. So we did a sock drive for one of the men's shelters here in Mount Vernon. And that was a wonderful way of putting our prayers into action. So as we age, sometimes, I'm not sure what was the age of the individual who took these socks, but as we age, sometimes money may not be what we have. So we have to be our brothers and our sisters' keeper, even though we're Church Women United, but we felt there was a need to help this men's shelter, and we did. So we do quite a number of events to educate. Our focus is on educating our individuals who start to age. And because they are in a different setting than when they might have been younger, some may have had misfortunes to come their way and not be able to plan for retirement. So we have to be that support mechanism that they need in order to be living and be surviving. So that is just a brief history of who we are and what we do in not only in our city of Mount Vernon, but we have also been supporters of the tornadoes and the climate changes and the flood victims in Haiti and also in other parts of the country. We've also been supporters of that as well. So that's just a brief history of who we are and what we do for our community. I think you're muted.
So thank you so much. I have to say that your summary of the activities that Church Women United engage in is really inspiring and is a reminder of the long tradition of self-help organizations that we've had in the Black community and others, and the central role that they play in addressing many of the problems we confront. And I hope everyone who's listening will take this as an invitation to help to replenish the ranks of these organizations. You know what? I'm getting older, and one or two of y'all got a step ahead of me, and so I know that you're looking for young people to come in and pick up the slack as people retire out. So I want to thank you. We'll come back to some of those now. So let me say, firstly, everyone, I hope you don't mind if I take liberties and address you rather informally by your first names. You could call me Bob as well. I feel a little peculiar saying Miss and Mrs. all the time. So I hope you'll understand. So Judy, I know I'm not surprised to hear that you're involved with Church Women United, given the many hats that you wear in our community today. What in particular was it about the mission that Church Women United undertakes that inspired you to join? And what was it about your personal experience that made the cause of the Alzheimer's cure so important to you?
So I'm going to tell a little story publicly that only a few people know why I joined Church Women United. I don't think that our president either. Before I came of age, I was asked to check Church Women United out by the powers that be, because at some point we may be able to use them or work with them. So I began to sit in on their meetings. And what I found was a group of women of all ethnic backgrounds and of all religions working together with a common goal and with such a fervor and great respect for one another and what they were doing. And I was amazed. And I had read this book called Women Hold Up Half of the World. And when I made my report back, I said, in essence, these women don't need us, but we certainly need them because they're holding up half of the world. They were doing so many activities, and something that I love, they were sharing information and trying to help in all pockets of the community, no fanfare. And they were working globally, think global, locally, act globally. They were doing that. And so me coming in just to spy out the land, I've been there ever since. I learned so much from these women, and they just let me hang out and learn, and they give me different projects, and I'm the project coordinator. But if you ever want to join a group of women who are on the move and helping their community and helping worldwide, it is Church Women United. And as Ms. Shirley said, that I'm also on the board of Wartburg. I just want to say a little bit about Wartburg because they have been at the forefront for some time now. And I'm not going to take up all the time because I'm hoping that you'll come back to me so I can talk to part 2 about Wartburg. And Wartburg, everybody know it as a nursing home, but it is so much more than that. Wartburg and Mount Vernon provides senior care services integrated and comprehensive for seniors. And they've been recognized by U.S. News and World Report as the best nursing home in the greater New York area. And so all of their services are somewhat wrapped around and woven and integrated to assist and combat the disease of Alzheimer and dementia. And just to name a few, and they specialize in their area. They know what they're doing. I'll just put it simply. They have the Institute for Music and Neurologic Function. It's a great institute that we have there. And as you know, that music is often used in dementia. It's not a cure, but it certainly helps to slow down the disease and helps to mitigate some of the symptoms of dementia, the anxiety, the depression, the loneliness, the agitation. And they also have a Council for Creative Aging and Lifelong Learning. And this is a program where the seniors can express themselves through art and theater, poetry, and oral histories. And it's all dedicated to assisting in the retardation of the disease of dementia and Alzheimer's. And we presently have a dedicated memory care unit where we have professionals, and it's one of the first to be licensed in Westchester. And we also have a long-standing nursing unit, which is dedicated to helping people with Alzheimer's. And how I came to Wartburg is that my mom was there for a short period of time. And at the time I was so busy, I did not join boards. I just didn't have the time. That was the first board that I joined. because I couldn't do what I did if they didn't do what they did. And I watched the services and the care that they gave, and how they were so meticulous in who they hired to deal with the seniors. And I'm going to talk later, if I can, about the new development that Wartburg has brought to the forefront in Alzheimer's. But I won't take up all the time, but I do want to talk later about that, Dr. Bob.
Okay. Well, time is quickly elapsing from the clock. So, Maura, I wanted to ask you to shift our attention to the actual upcoming walk. Again, can you tell our audience when the walk is scheduled for? How can people get involved in the walk? And ultimately, what is the immediate purpose of participating in the walk?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the opportunity to bring that up, Dr. Bob. And I will continue to call you Dr. Bob if you're okay with that. I like the ring. It sounds good. The walk. So we're gearing up for our annual walk in Westchester. There are several walks happening around the Hudson Valley, but the Westchester walk is the biggest one. It's again, as I mentioned at the outset, there's about 600 walks happening over the next couple of months. And it's the world's largest fundraiser for Alzheimer's care, support, and research. So this year, we're walking at Westchester Community College in Valhalla. We're excited to have access to that property. It's beautiful. We'll be there on Sunday, October 3rd. Everyone is welcome to attend. You can register in advance for the walk. The website to do that, it's easy to remember. It's westchesterwalk.org. And that will take you to the registration page. There's also opportunity to register on site on the day of the event. Thank you for pulling that up. Yes, perfect. There's no fee to register for the walk, though everybody's encouraged to raise funds. And again, that will go to help provide care and support, advance research towards methods of prevention, treatment, and ultimately we're hoping for a cure. So as Dr. Bob so kindly pulled up the page, the details of the event: registration opens at 1:00. The opening ceremony will be at 2, and the walk will begin at 2:15. All COVID-19 protocols will be observed, including social distancing. Masks and hand sanitizers will be on hand. We'll do staggered starts so that people aren't clustered together. We're really going to be mindful of COVID. And actually, the Walk to End Alzheimer's in Westchester is one of the top 30 walks in the whole country in terms of participating and fundraising. So it's really always a great event. Please come and join us. And actually, I have another event to plug related. We're having a bridge lighting of the Governor Mario Cuomo Bridge on next Saturday, September 25th at 6 p.m. The governor's office was so kind to let us have this. They're going to turn the bridge purple to raise awareness for Alzheimer's disease. And we're going to have a watch party at Horan's Landing in Sleepy Hollow. That's 57 River Street in Sleepy Hollow at 6 p.m. Saturday the 25th. There'll be some food trucks and a DJ, and we'll be there to see the bridge light up once it turns dark. Again, open to all. Please come and join us. It will be a fun event, and the walk on October 3rd, we're leading up towards that. We'd love to have you. And quickly, I also want to plug too that in Westchester, we're heavily engaged in advocacy for our elected officials in DC through the Alzheimer's Impact Movement, which is related to the Alzheimer's Association. So we engage with our elected officials in Washington and in Albany too. And I'm a proud lifelong resident of Mount Vernon. My congressional district is 16. And I currently serve as an Alzheimer's advocate to Congressman Bowman's office. I've been engaging with his staff on key federal legislative priorities related to things like increasing diversity in clinical trial populations, increasing funding for research, providing resources to caregivers. As Ms. Shirley mentioned, caregivers are so overburdened, they need resources to keep them sane, literally, to support them in the work that they do. That is so important, because I'm not sure if there's research on whether it's better to keep somebody with Alzheimer's and dementia in their home, but intuition tells me that that might be the case. And so we need to support our caregivers. So we have a whole group of people who's dedicated to advocating with Congressman Bowman's office, as well Congressman Jones's district and office in the 17th and all across the state. I just feel like the advocacy piece is so important, just because we know that as the American population is living longer, the prevalence of these diseases will rise and the risk factors will continue to increase. So we want to make sure we get adequate attention on the issue with our members of Congress. So if you're interested in anything advocacy related, you can go to alzimpact.org, or you can text AIMWALK, AIMWALK, to 52886. And then you'll get more information on the Alzheimer's Impact Movement, how you can plug into these mechanisms that help you to reach out to your elected officials on email, on social media, on the phone. Make them know that this issue is important to you. So thank you for letting me plug all those things. Again, the walk on October 3rd at Westchester Community College, our bridge lighting on the 25th. Watch the Cuomo Bridge turn purple, and get involved with advocacy, because Alzheimer's is not going away unless we unite to combat it and to raise awareness about it. And I just commend all the work that Church Women United is doing on this front, and Wartburg as well. So thank you.
So I'm curious, can you explain to our viewers in a little bit more detail exactly what they would be doing on the walk, how this relates to the whole fundraising mechanism? What are the procedures? Some people may be a little intimidated by the prospect of handing large amounts of money. I mean, how are these walks organized these days?
Totally hear you. And honestly, no amount is too small. If you want to sign up and donate $20 yourself, and you want to walk because you feel passionate, that is totally great. We have a lot of tools to help people fundraise. We have ways that if you register, you can connect a Facebook fundraiser directly to your Facebook with one click of a button. And, small amounts of money add up. There are, yeah.
So Laura, so each of the participants is required to go and get sponsors. Is that how this works?
Yeah. Not required, not a hard requirement. If you want to come and wear your purple and walk, we're happy to have you. But it is encouraged to do a little bit of fundraising. If it's just a text or an email to your friends, hey, give $5. I'm doing this for this important cause. Or if, you want to take it to your job who can do a corporate match, it's really a range of ways of participation. But yeah, a lot of it is now like digital, online, on social media. So it is a lot easier, and it can be just a couple clicks of the button.
Okay, so in the past, a person before the information revolution might have actually went and solicited sponsorships by hand from their neighbors. Now we can use our social media platforms along with face-to-face solicitations in order to raise funds. If you are not able to raise a lot of funds, you can simply show your support for the cause, put on a shirt, maybe contribute something modest out of pocket. Okay, that sounds good. So Shirley, since Church Women United has been in this and many efforts for some time now, I'm curious to know what specific kind of efforts are Church Women United of Mount Vernon making? Are you guys going to be sponsoring some sort of group walk that you're inviting people to join in together on?
Thank you. I'm glad you asked that question. Tomorrow is our meeting. Will be our first meeting. We were on summer recess, and that is an agenda item. So we intend to do something to support Alzheimer's in the walk for those who can walk or show up, or do something to support this effort. So that is certainly something that we intend to do in our meeting tomorrow, when we have our first meeting after being on summer break. Yeah, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm trying to. So, Judy, I know that there was some follow-up information that you wanted to share with the audience, and you wanted to save it for the next round of comments. So maybe that would be a good time for you to actually share the additional information you were alluding to before.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Bob. And I'm going to continue to say Dr. Bob because he's such a smart man and he doesn't like this to be said. Most smart people don't. But he is, I'll just say he applies himself and it works. So I'm honored to say Dr. Bob. So I want to share about Wartburg because they see Alzheimer and other dementia up close and personal. And so we have a memory care unit that addresses that. But now we're in the process of developing a new building that is dedicated to dementia and Alzheimer. And as Ms. Shirley asked, what about staying home? Is that a better thing? So the building will have a household model, which means it will not look like your regular nursing home. It will be more like home. And the people that work there will be more like friends or family who specialize in it. So it won't be the, what do I want to say? It won't be the hospital-like setting or the nursing home-like setting that you're accustomed to. So someone must have done that study and came up with that it's better to have that type of environment when treating that disease. And we've done the research and we found out that Westchester actually needs up to maybe 160 something additional care beds for memory care. And our building will provide 64 unit. And it will also be a LEED certified building, a green building, which is nothing new to Wartburg. 4 stories of residential care dedicated and specifically for this disease and related diseases with the state-of-the-art equipment and the state-of-the-art employees will work in that unit. And we expect to break ground in November. And I'm proud to be a part of this. And I'm just proud that it's located in Mount Vernon. However, everybody will not come from Mount Vernon. We do have 11 zip codes that different people will come from. We can't keep it all to ourselves, I guess. That's what I wanted to share.
I'm curious. Yes, thank you. I got that. I'm curious to know some of the funds that are going to be raised by the Alzheimer's Association will underwrite research generally. I'm curious, Judy, is there any kind of partnership that the Alzheimer's Association engages in to support the construction of local facilities like the one in Wartburg to offset some of the costs? Because my sense is that this can be a very costly undertaking.
I'm thinking that I do know, and Maura can attest to this, that they have been talking, correct, Maura? They have been in discussions. And I think that will, Dr. Bob, I told you, you're smart. That will be a great partnership, an excellent partnership. And I will bring that up at our next meeting. But as Maura and I said, they have been in conversations. Yes.
Yeah, they're definitely, there is an existing partnership there. I'm not sure exactly how the conversations have gone around this new building, but I'm sure that there have been those conversations, and hopefully we'll continue to build on a partnership as well moving forward.
Wonderful. Much of when we talk about this type of research into common diseases, very often it would put the average person a bit at a distance because there's no way that they really can get involved with actual research. But you've all alluded to some of the findings about more practical things that people can do in their everyday lives in order to treat and comfort loved ones who have Alzheimer's. And it sounds like some of the findings are suggesting new approaches that we can incorporate into our own lives, such as the kind of at-home climate we create. And I'm curious, Maura, Shirley, Judy, can you offer our audience members who are dealing with relatives who have who are suffering from Alzheimer's, what are some of the practices that you recommend to them to ensure their safety and also the quality of life that can go into decline?
Well, I think that, this is my thoughts on this, that what an individual was accustomed to prior to them developing Alzheimer's, if you can kind of put some of that into practice in their everyday life according to wherever they are, I think that this will kind of move them, in a more serene place, a more secure place. Because I think someone mentioned music. If I was a musician or if I was a person who enjoyed music, if I hear that, it probably will bring me, will change, make my mind, kind of click, and instead of being away. Oh, that was something that, the brain, I'm not really, that great in this, but that the brain will kind of tap into. So I think that what Judy mentioned about being able to develop a building, that is structured toward Alzheimer's, and then if you can just incorporate some of the everyday events, maybe one event for each person, may not have to be every day, maybe one day a month or whatever, but so that they can become accustomed to a more home-like environment or what they was accustomed to before they developed the Alzheimer's disease. That's just my thoughts on that.
Right. I know one of the painful experiences that people often attest to as their loved ones go through Alzheimer's is the weakening of the personal relationship and the increasing loss of recognition of that person's relationship. And Shirley, I said this because your recommendation seems to me to be well taken at one of the things we're trying to do as we look for ways to strengthen those connections is familiar routines. I know that when my grandmother was beginning to experience Alzheimer's, one of the things we did, like you suggested, Shirley, is to try to repeat some of those favorite routines for her. She was a church woman. She was a member, a head deaconess of Shiloh Baptist Church in Tuckahoe, along with my grandfather. And one of the things that we did was to read some of her favorite Bible passages and sing some hymns. Mm-hmm. So I hope that those are the kind of things that people are considering incorporating into their own round of care if they are having to treat a relative who's suffering from Alzheimer's themselves. I'm curious, are there any other kinds of recommendations? Maura, I know that you are a real font of knowledge about Alzheimer's. It seems that you are quite familiar with a lot of the findings, and I'm curious to know, what are people doing on the ground to try to deal with the challenges of Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate that very much. I do want to make a plug for the Alzheimer's Association website, alz.org. There are so many resources on that webpage, specifically geared towards people who may be experiencing dementia, and Alzheimer's, who may have a family history. For those who are caregivers, there's a lot of good information on strategies and things that you can do to help your loved ones, help yourself, if you're facing this insidious disease. And I will say that I tend to speak to a lot of caregivers, just in my involvement with the Alzheimer's Association, the planning committee of the walk, and in the advocacy. And one thing that has just jumped out at me is that caregivers are getting burnt out very quickly because they have so much on their plates to do. And so they never get rest. And so I think one of the main strategies that folks need to bear in mind, as if they're caregivers, is that you need to take some time for yourself sometimes and give yourself that space to relax, because you won't be able to provide appropriate care for your loved one if you're not in the right headspace. So that's something that I know that the local chapter, the Hudson Valley chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, has a lot of support groups, places where people can talk to others and learn from others what they're doing that's working, what's not working, and just getting that support, which is just so vital, as you care for somebody who's progressively getting worse. So I won't be able to do the resources justice in terms of the different strategies. So I'm just going to direct everybody to alz.org and to the Hudson Valley chapter webpage in particular, and get connected to those support groups and those resources. I think they'll be put to good use.
All right. Well, a smart man knows that one of the ways to pass the time effectively is to give the floor to others. Already, it seems nearly an hour has elapsed since you guys have been on air. I don't want to keep you much longer. I'd like to give each of you a chance maybe to offer additional comments, recommendations, information to the audience that they need to be aware of as we prepare to observe National Alzheimer's Day, I believe next week, and then begin to put our prayers into action, Shirley.
Dr. Barber, I'd just like to say this in my closing, is that my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. That was some years ago, and he was 89, and he was in the Southland. So I flew down and I said, "How did you diagnose him?" So they couldn't tell me. So what I did is I put him on a plane and I brought him to New York. And what they discovered was it was not a correct diagnosis. He had a tumor on his brain. So it's important to get the correct diagnosis for this disease and any disease. And sometimes if we're talking about the Black and brown community, that we're just kind of pushed aside or taken for granted. So it's so important to get the correct diagnosis. And we were talking about the home environment. My parents loved music. So at 93, when we began to see some symptoms with my mom, she loved music. So at 93 years old, she made her first CD. She did all the parts because she loved harmony. And I believe that this helped her because she always say, I don't want to get a disease where I'm not smart. She always thought she was the smartest person in the room. And so when she produced this CD, I could see a difference in her kind of coming back to herself. So it's very important that you find something in their life that they liked and you try to keep them on that course. I've seen that work several times. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Judy. Shirley, how about you? Any last minute recommendations?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Bob, for this platform in order to talk about Alzheimer's and also to talk about Church Women United. I certainly want to thank you for that. I would just like to say that I think that all of us should try to educate ourselves in all the ways that we possibly can. Maura has provided us with the website. So go out to read the website, read books, talk to other individuals who have had individuals or who have had contact with people who have had Alzheimer's, and you can always pick up some additional information that you can educate yourself with, and that you will also be able to pass on to others. So networking is also very important.
Excellent, excellent. Well, our time together has come to a close. I'm not going to hold you ladies up any further. It was a pleasure having you on air. I want to again invite our audience members to come and participate in all of the activities that are coming up in the upcoming weeks to combat Alzheimer's. And I'd also like to extend an invitation to all of you to come back after the walk and this month's activities are over with, and give us an update on where things stand and what additional kind of follow-up activities you're going to be planning in the near future. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bob.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to try to get this done smoothly. If y'all want, y'all can just log out, and I'm sure that's good. Sure, I can move on to our next guest. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you again.
You too. Have a blessed day.
All right, Brother Green. Uh-oh, y'all. Let's see. Welcome, welcome. I'm here by myself. I'm waiting for my man, Darren Green, to appear on air. Everyone, thank you for bearing with any of the technical difficulties, glitches that we've been experiencing today. As you all know, the regular host for tonight's show, AJ Woodson, could not be here because he's traveling out of town in order to mourn the passing of his father. He will be back next week. He asked me to extend his thanks to everyone for all of the well wishes that you shared with him online, and he looked forward to resuming our activities next week. I am a little uncertain how to proceed, everyone. I am expecting our guest, Darren Green, candidate for town council in Central Islip, Long Island. Mr. Green is logged on right now. Oh, there you go, Brother Green. I almost gave up on you, man. I knew you were around, though, brother. Hold on, let me take you off of mute. You're on mute, Darren.
I got it.
Cool. What's happening, Brother Green? It's good to have you on air with us.
Good, Dr. Bob. How you doing?
I'm good. Now, I know that you have a relationship of long standing with some of the guests, the hosts of the show, in particular, Damon Jones, and you go back a little bit of a ways. So by way of introduction, Darren, why don't you just tell us what brings you to the show today? What office are you running? Maybe how does your long-standing relationship with Damon Jones has it factored into this decision that you're making?
Okay. So I'll give you let me just get my volume up a little bit. So as everybody is aware, I'm Darren Green. I am a current candidate for Islip on Long Island, Islip Town Council. We now have councilmatic districts, something that was a lawsuit that was handed down and the victory was won this actually last year. So the town agreed to create to go from at-large districts to councilmatic districts, which means that each area gets their own representative. So how Islip is broken up, Islip is a town compiled into Suffolk County, broken up into different townships. So the town of Islip has a population of about 350,000 people. But the section so now the section is broken up into 4 districts. And those 4 districts, my particular district compiles about 80,000 people. I have the largest district that's been split. So in District 2 is towns that compose of Hauppauge, Central Islip, Great River, North Great River, East Islip, Islip Terrace, Oakdale, and Sayville, and West Sayville. So a little background about myself is Damon and I go back, well over 20 years. Both of us.
I think I recognize you, actually.
Yeah.
I do.
And I'm the current president of Blacks in Law Enforcement.
Yes. Okay.
Of America, the Long Island chapter. I'm also the former president of the Nassau County Sheriff Guardians. And I'm also the Long Island liaison, I guess you can say, for the Grand Council of Guardians, which encompasses all African-American law enforcement fraternal organizations, or all guardian organizations in Long Island. So Damon and I have gotten a chance over the last 20 years to be fighters, fighting battles, particularly, the ones in Westchester, just coming out, being a part of what our attorney at the time, which was Bonita Zellman. Charles Billups is the chairman of the Grand Council. We've been fighting almost every battle that Damon has had. I've stood side by side with him, even in the Kenneth Chamberlain situation. When that situation happened, we held a press conference up in Westchester. We have done so much work together. And so as a spinoff, once I stepped down from being president of the Guardians, the Sheriff's Department Guardians, we decided to branch out and create a chapter of Blacks in Law Enforcement of Long Island for the Long Island chapter. And we just continue, as we still do, continue to fight these different battles when it comes to law enforcement. when it comes to a term that Damon has cloned called criminality, and I'm pretty sure you've heard Damon use this term. We have been able to do that. So how we cross over is that we've been fighting these political nuances, from the county executives on up or on down, as to how do we change policy and procedure as it relates to not only law enforcement, but as it relates to some of the things that have happened in law. So most of the shootings, the deaths that have happened to innocent people, the shootings of officers that have happened, we have stood on the corners, we banged on drums, we held press conferences, we even lobbied for the gun bill when we got the chance to go to Albany and lobby, for the gun bill when there was a new gun bill that was out. But the thing that became most important is that we realized in order to affect change, you have to have a seat at the table. And for me, it's like we were able to get a lot of things done from the outside. But now I want to be able to sit on the inside and sit at the table and be able to not only affect change from within, from a town perspective, but be able to help my town residents with some of the issues that we have that are affecting us, not only public safety, but also as it relates to our parks and our roads and our communities, and how our communities have been grossly affected. So that to me is a large component of what we need to do, particularly now here in Islip, is that there has been a large divide, and that divide for how the councilmatic districts came about was there's a black and brown community, Central Islip, Brentwood, and North Bayshore. Brentwood is the largest Hispanic community in the state of New York. And yet those individuals that lived north of the southern state or north of Sunrise Highway, for those of you who may have a demographic view, there was never any representation. So if you lived south of those areas, those towns that were predominantly south, that were predominantly, predominantly white, then those areas in those districts were always well maintained and well taken care of. So now we get a chance to have a councilman to represent the areas of Brentwood and North Bayshore, which was District 1. And then I'm in District 2, as I stated earlier before, which will cover the Hispanic and Black community of Central Islip. So this is an historical run. Going to be the first time in 337 years of the history of the town of Islip that a minority or an African American will ever be voted into any board seat. So we're looking forward to really getting in there and doing some really good work and changing some things over, but being able to have a voice and represent the people, and so that we can try to affect change for those in the community.
So, as part of its reform efforts in recent years, Central Islip recently went from at-large districts to single-member districts.
Yes.
Now, I'm curious to know, just to put things in context, what was the comparison between the demographic makeup of Central Islip and its elected leadership under the previous single-member at-large district system that was used?
Well, as it stands, the Central Islip is right next to Brentwood, and it is a large Hispanic and Black community. But the representation for the at-large board was all white, and is currently still all white. So, we want to be able to, sometimes you hate to have to put a label on it, but the numbers speak for themselves, and you can't eradicate history and take away from what's already there and what's already been there. These are the things that need to be changed. We need to go into these positions and be able to have a voice for those Black and brown people, but also being able to be a representative for everybody from within the district, because you can't just go into the district and say that I'm only going to help the Black and brown people, because that's not the way that the game works. But we sure need to make sure that we are in a position so that those Black and brown folks have an equal share and an equal voice for the things and the concerns that they have for the areas that we live in. Because I live in Central Islip, so I'm also going to be an advocate, a strong advocate, and a voice for that, so that it can be put out proportionately.
So, Darren, I know initially much of your activism focused on police reform, and indeed, as I pulled up the screen, I realized I had, in fact, seen you at some of the previous events that were put on, along with Damon and other network of
Yes.
Activists. But I'm curious to know, now that you're transitioning from citizen activism to some sort of electoral position, what are the how has your issue focus changed? What are the big issues that you think afflict the community of Central Islip, and what's unique about your approach to your policy approach to these issues?
A great question. You know, the approach is somewhat the same, but strategically different. So it's oxymoronic in the way that it's said. But I think from a law enforcement perspective, I spent 15 years, because I didn't really give a background about myself. So to answer your question, 27 years in law enforcement, 15 years as an instructor. I have class certifications throughout the state for, suicide prevention, cultural diversity, for New York State facilitation skills. I mean, the list is, pretty large, and I've trained with a lot of cross agencies. So how that affects the community is being able to sit with residents, one, and listen to what they have to say. That's the biggest component, and that's one of the biggest complaints that we're getting from residents, all over the district, is that the town has neglected the fact to even hear some of the complaints of the residents. So it's kind of what you have to do is you have to make room for people to speak. You even when they host meetings right now, those meetings are held at 2:00 in the afternoon. So who can come to a town meeting at 2:00 in the afternoon when the average person works, 9 to 5, if we want to say. So we're going to host a meeting so residents can come out and speak on their issues. Those meetings should be held in the evenings when people can come out and take part of that. So how that relates to the plan of what we may be able to do is we got to make some strategic changes, and we have to make room for the people. My slogan, the thing that I'm running on, is with the people, for the people. And that means that we have to stand in the trenches with the people, just like we did for law enforcement. Is we got to be able to come down from the dais, in this case, okay, go out into the community and talk to people, knock on the doors, as you do during campaign season, and figure out what is it that people want. What do you want to see changing in your neighborhood? If it's your parks that may be an issue, is it your roads that may be an issue? Is it zoning that may be an issue? We have to be able to get that feedback and create that community connection, something that we don't have currently right now.
Okay, so you obviously have been trying to make that connection with the community. You're in the midst of an election campaign right now. I know you've been out there knocking on plenty of doors. What is some of the key issues that people are bringing to your attention as you dialogue with them to see, what's going on and how you plan to contribute to its solution?
The largest component, one, is taxes. Taxes are incredibly high. Taxes have gone up more than 30% in the last 5 years, in the town of Islip. So people are looking to say is that, one, how do we offset those taxes? Is that there has to be a resolution for us. When you think about the entire county and you think about taxes going up in particular towns, why is it that the town of Islip has had the highest rate of tax increases, over the last span of 5 years? The other major concern is particularly a divide for our parks and recreation. Those individuals, we had a large dumping scam that happened in Central Islip a few years back. And a lot of people were charged with that on a federal level. And the parks were cleaned up after all of the dumpings had taken place. But there's still some things that were not done. Like there was supposed to be a spray park and a water park that was done. Now, it took them until about 3 weeks ago for that spray park to be opened. But when you look at other areas within the town that didn't even have a spray park, those areas were giving a brand new spray park, and it was up and running way before the existing spray park was there and before Roberto Clemente Park, is the park that I'm speaking of, was actually fixed and updated. So those are some of the things that residents are upset about, is that why can't we get the same fair share and fair treatment that those individuals who live south of Sunrise Highway as the people who live north of Sunrise Highway? And then the third thing that people complain about is there are some of the residents that do live south that have two issues. One is a zoning change with a building developer that is looking to take an old golf course and develop it, but the residents feel that the project is massive, is too big, and the town hasn't heard their voices or responded to an email campaign. And then the third one is there's a blighted college, which is the old Dowling College. It's the old Vanderbilt buildings, the original Vanderbilt buildings when the Vanderbilts used that as their summer homes. And that building, the college is out of business. The company that bought it has done nothing with the property. The property is blighted, and those community members are now taking care of the property themselves, spending money out of their pockets, taking care of the broken windows, the graffiti, the windows, the stained glass windows, the copper is being stolen. So you have residents that are taking care of things that the town is responsible for, but the town has told them it's your problem. You deal with it. And so it's things like that that I've had a chance to reach out and talk to community residents about and get that type of feedback from them. Okay.
Well, I'm curious. Comes as no surprise to me to hear that one of the most frequently raised issues is exorbitant tax rates. Not just because tax rates are exorbitantly high, but also because Long Island, I guess, Staten Island, and here I know I'm mixing stuff up. Like the analysis is all but has been a stronghold, a traditional bastion of conservatism, including opposition to tax increases. The reason that I mention this, Darren, is because it seems to me that we've been put in an irresolvable bind here in the United States. On the one hand, people rightly want their taxes to come down. On the other hand, we don't seem to recognize that there are pressing needs that we have that we got to spend some cash on.
Yes.
We're going to bring about an improvement, for example, of the physical infrastructure of our schools.
Yes.
And I'm curious to know, how do you have any ideas about how to get us out of this quandary so that we can both have an equitable, fair tax system that doesn't put an undue burden on the more modest earners, but on the other hand is generating the kind of revenues that municipalities need to take care of the pressing problems that confront the community? Any way we're going to be able to raise taxes, and can we do this all? Can we have our cake and eat it too?
That is generally people say no. I mean, the answer to that question is generally no. Most people can't have their cake and eat it too. But there are some cases, that I do look at and say that how do we get out of this? And I think in certain townships, you got to start looking at other sources of revenue. So one of the things that I would be looking to do was let's go and let's peel the books back. I use this term loosely because I'm not sure that we can actually do it. But when you think about the term forensic audits, or you think about what that encompasses, we got to be able to go in and look at where has the money gone? Where is the money being spent? And transparency becomes the key issue here. Years ago, I was an advocate for schools. They created a thing called CFEs in the state when I was an advocate for a company with a community group called AQE, which Alliance for Quality Education. And what we created was a thing called Contracts for Excellence, which is through New York State, was to show that those contracts that were given to school districts, that you had to present everything that you were going to do before you were allotted the money. And then when you allotted the money, we could see transparently where the money was going to be spent before the state actually issued the money. So I think in townships, we got to be just as transparent as to where that money is being spent. And is there some things that we can do to offset the spending? Or the thing that we don't generally look at is that there's federal grants that can help us get out of some of the things or some of the situations that we're in, but yet nobody's creatively looking at what are the other options that we have in order to help clean up some of our whether it's our parks, whether it's our waterways, or whether it's even looking at the infrastructure in the schools, which some cases the towns don't particularly get into, like in the town of Islip, we don't particularly get into the school stuff. But when you think about what it needs to happen, we got to start looking at other places rather than just constantly taxing the taxpayer when there could be another way or an option. If there is not a way, I think the most important thing is is how about we sit down and explain to taxpayers where their tax dollars would be? Yeah, you can see it on your tax bill, but how about having a conversation? And I think that's what's missing. People are not hearing what they need to hear from the boards so that they understand exactly where their tax dollars are being spent.
Right. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm an avid student of local government and am always trying to educate myself as to its internal operations. One of the real impediments to that is, to be quite honest, in the city of Mount Vernon, Central Islip might not be.
Yes.
Right. Yes. A lot of the key documents that people need in order to follow these budgetary debates that we're having and to figure out where our money is going are not accessible. And when they are accessible, they're very difficult to read. I know that one element of a reform effort, for a government reform effort, is to try to publish key government documents that are more transparent, easier to follow.
Yes.
You don't necessarily need an accounting degree in order to make heads or tails.
Right. And I agree with you, is that put it in layman's terms so people have a complete understanding of exactly what they're reading. And you got to understand that also one of the biggest issues here is that because, Brentwood, Central Islip, I should say, I'm going to speak to Central Islip, that because it is a large Latino population, okay, as well as Haitian population, we also understand that we have the dynamics, but there's a language barrier. So the town also needs to have access so that those residents that live in the areas that are north of the Southern State Assurance Highway have equal representation of language translation so that they can go down to the town and figure out, if I don't understand a document because it's not translated or because I don't read particularly well, I'm a resident and I'm a taxpayer, but I may need a little help with understanding what's really written on this paper. So we need to make sure that our residents that are here have equal access as well as with the language barrier. And that becomes a really, really key component. And I think that's why a lot of residents have been really disgruntled and angry with the operations of the town, because the perception has been these people don't care. And it's not that they don't care, it's just they haven't been treated fairly and been given the opportunities so that they can have their voices heard.
Right. I'm curious to know, part of this effort towards greater government transparency includes not just accessible documentations, but accessible hearings.
Yes.
And I'm curious to know whether the town of Central Islip does make your public hearings available to the public so that they can review and follow some of these internal debates for themselves. Because it's not been fully implemented in the city of Mount Vernon even yet, and I wonder where you guys compare. How you compare?
From what I know in the town of Islip, they do have a public access channel, and the public access channel gives people an opportunity to view the town meetings and to have access to go back and look at them. But one of the things that I found very interesting is that recently there was a town meeting that was had, and in the town meeting, when you think about accessibility, there was a large shot. But what they did because of COVID, these towns have a way of stacking the room with employees so that residents can't come into the room. Okay, to fill the room up so that and then it was a standing room only. And then they put a speaker on the TV outside in the hallway because they were expecting a large crowd. And the speaker did not have access for audio. And then when they put the audio out there, it was so distorted and they didn't even give a microphone to the residents that were speaking. And then they told the residents, don't worry about those people back there. They don't need to hear you. Only we need to hear you. So you have operations of this magnitude that are happening that does not allow, even for when you're in person, to even have the access that you should have. I mean, it's just unfair treatment, as it comes to accessibility and as it comes to for residents having an opportunity to be able to either speak their voice or even receive information back.
Gotcha. So Darren, I mean, the central job of any town council person is to write legislation. And I'm curious, what kind of experience do you have in crafting, formulating legislation? I know most of your activist work probably entailed a different activity, other activities. But I'm curious to know, have you had an opportunity to, you know, take an in-depth look at legislation, review it, make recommendations to various state local panels as part of your previous work could serve you well in if you enter into the council chambers?
I have not written any legislation, but we have had an opportunity to work on legislation with elected officials, you know, in the past. And one of the things that makes my transition kind of so key is that, you know, for a long time is that when you're an instructor, you got to create lesson plans, you know, and so creating lesson plans, it involves the same type of documentation and research, because as an instructor, you're responsible for doing your own research, okay, and then creating and writing your own lesson plans that will allow you to be able to transmit your lesson, your research into your lesson plan and transplant that into a board or into a lesson where you can verbalize that to your student population. So for me, I think it's an easy transition as you sit down and we look at what state legislation or local legislation needs to be had based on the things that we need to get done, be able to absorb that information, review it and internalize it, and then be able to put that legislation on paper based on the needs of the people and based on some of the laws that we have that may be outdated, or some of the policies and procedures that we may have that may be outdated. And I think that's where the transition for me, I think, will be very easy from transitioning from, you know, public sector and being an advocate to being able to transfer into an electoral position.
It really is hard to overstate the importance of being an independent thinker who has research and analysis skills that you can bring to bear on a problem if you're going to be a successful legislator. There's actually no substitute for it. Or else you're just regurgitating ideas that other people are giving to you. Now, and a lot of those ideas have proven to be ineffective, and we're looking for new ones. Now, even though you don't have any previous legislation writing experience, my sense is that you served on commissions of various kinds that have taken up important problems that are confronting our community and had to do a lot of similar kind of hearings and panel reviews. What were some of those commissions that you worked in the past, either formally or informally?
Well, one of the things that I did was, again, I spoke earlier about this company called AQE, which was a community group that was formulated for Alliance for Quality Education. But we worked very handily with Citizens Action of New York. And I was also, AQE was a sub-organization to a parental organization called Long Island Progressive Coalition. And I was a board member for Long Island Progressive Coalition. And they're a social and racial justice, you know, organization that actually, you know, gets out in the communities and works closely with all the elected officials. And being a board member, we had to actually sometimes, what we did do was we vetted different candidates who were seeking office. And we also went to Albany and lobbied. So one of the other things is that I'm also part of a coalition called, you know, what I do with Long Island Lobby Coalition, which with another organization called Vision Long Island. And I've been a strong component here on Long Island for working closely with, you know, Vision Long Island and actually taking bus rides and bus trips up to Albany, where we actually would lobby different elected officials for the particular areas of what we needed. So yes, I do have some background and dealing with local elected officials and working on issues of really importance. And that's the thing that gives me the greatest, you know, joy, is that I bring so much, you know, to the table based on the experiences that I've had, not only in law enforcement, but also in the political arena as well.
Well, it sounds like you do have a wealth of experience that has direct relevance to the work that you're going to do. And unlike a lot of professional politicians who enter the field under the sponsorship of established political players, these are skills that you've obtained independently while doing work for your community, and therefore are only likely to further amplify that effort that you've been making. So I'm excited. Now, it sounds, Darren, like you've actually already begun to put together a coalition, a progressive coalition.
Yes.
Cross-racial, cross-ethnic, cross-religious coalition to power your campaign. So I'm curious to know how are things looking? Who are you competing against? How many other contenders for the office do you have? And how does the racial ethnic composition of your district factor into some of the challenges that you see ahead of you?
That is, and actually, well, Dr. Bob, that is actually a very good question. So the campaign is looking very well. We're doing a lot of work. We've gotten a chance to go out and do, again, give you receptive door knocking responses. Got a chance to do a lot of fundraising. Got some good fundraising efforts going. So I think one of the things and how it looks based on the racial makeup is that the district in District 2, outside of Central Islip, is which is a largely Black and brown community. The other communities are not Black and brown. Other communities are predominantly white. So one of the questions that I got asked when I first got vetted for the candidacy was, how did he, if I was the chosen candidate, how would an African American candidate think that he or she would be able to go into a predominantly all white district and win that particular seat? So my opponent, who's the incumbent, which his name is Jim O'Connor. Again, I mean, from what I understand, he appears to be, from what I've been told from some mutual friends that we have, he appears to be a very nice guy. But nice guys don't always get the work done. And I think that based on past experience, I think some of the frustrations that I've had is that some residents are frustrated with not only his position, but the town that was at large. So how it plays out is that I've gotten a chance, based on my personality and based on the things that I've been able to accomplish. To me, it doesn't matter, Black, white, Latino. It doesn't really matter the racial makeup. It's about making the connection with the people. And it's about, and that's one of the strongest things that I bring to the table is my ability to communicate, my communication skills. And being in law enforcement, being an instructor, you got to be able to stand. As I mentioned to you earlier, that I'm a licensed New York State facilitator. So you have to learn to facilitate meetings. You have to have conversations with people of all different races and ethnic groups, on all different, bipartisan or not. We have a job to do. We have work to get done. So I'm looking forward to working with all racial makeups, and I'm also looking forward to working, across bipartisan lines and working with the Republican Party or even Conservative Party to be able to get things done that's going to further enhance the better lives for the residents for the town of Islip, and particularly in District 2, because that will be the area that I'm representing.
I see. So I want some clarification here. You are the nominee. Are you the Democratic nominee?
Yes. So let me clarify this. We did not have a primary, so I was a chosen Democratic nominee. So now we're just heading into the general election, which will be held November 2nd. We're looking very good. We're in a very good position as we stand, right now. And I think that there is a really strong chance of winning here. We're so optimistic. My campaign team and I, we've done a lot of work. Again, we've gotten out to the community residents, and we're excited, but we're also focused, laser focused on the fact that we can't take for granted, that there's an incumbent that's in office, and we can't take for granted that they're not going to come out and continue to do the work that they've done in order for them to maintain and keep the seat. So we got to keep the pressure on, and we got to keep our minds focused on the work that we need to do. We can't take this lightly or for granted to think this is going to be an easy cakewalk, into this electoral position. So we're focused on that. Okay, so tell me, I would like any of our audience members, though we're mainly in Westchester, but we got a large reach, brother. So who knows? Yes.
If there are anyone who is tuned in, who is interested in joining your campaign, can you give them some information about your website, social media, links, etc., where they can reach you and either to volunteer or to make contributions to your campaign?
Absolutely. I have a website that is up. The website is you can Google D Green for iSlip or D Green for iSlip, or you can go to our social media page, our Facebook page, which is D Green for Council District 2, or I should say, she'll say Darren Green for Council District 2. And you can also, if you want to reach out, you can reach out. I'll give you the phone number, which is area code 516-909-3864 is where we can be reached for those who may want to volunteer. And I'll also give you an email address where you can send your emails to, and that is dgreen council district 2 at Gmail. So I'll say that
spelled out, a single word.
Yes, D Green District 2, all one word, at Gmail.
Okay.
So, and you can find all the information if you go to the Facebook page, which is Darren Green for Council District 2. On the Facebook page, you'll be able to access all the other links. You'll be able to check out all our information, all the videos that we've posted, and you'll also be able to access the website directly from the Facebook page. That may be an easier transition, or you can just type in D Green for iSlip, and that will give you the access to the website as well.
Okay. So, D, you're running on the Democratic ticket. Obviously, your incumbent challenger or your incumbent opponent is, I take it, he's a Republican.
Yes, he is. The town has been under Republican leadership, for the last, like I said, 337 years. So, and in its content, it sounds like it's a really uphill battle. But I think it boils down to now is that being able to have the right candidate to be able to bring the right resources to the right race. And I think this is the opportunity where we get a chance to do that. I just got endorsed by just had 2 interviews, I should say. One is an endorsement, which is the Long Island Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO. We're looking hopefully to get some endorsements, possibly from other local leadership, other unions. We've had some interviews with them as well. So waiting to hear back from several other unions as well, which we're still looking to possibly get some endorsements from the PBA as a way to, because I'm in law enforcement. I have not had those conversations as of yet. But I'm also optimistic that we'll be able to do that. Again, this is just historical in its content, but I really hope that people wouldn't also get so wrapped up in the historical content as more as it is important that we focus on the issues. And the issue is that what can be done and what changes we need to make across the board so that we can have a better iSlip and also a better District 2, because what they did do is that in District 1s and 2s, District 3 and 4 are off years. So they won't have 4 districts, having an election all at one time. Okay,
I see. So landing the endorsement of one of the nation's largest labor unions was a real coup in a way for you.
Yes.
What in particular about your policies did persuaded labor that you were the guy that they should give their backing to?
One of the things I think that's very key, I'm a union member myself, being in law enforcement for 27 years, understanding the contents and the nuances of what it means to rebuild and to build America. When we're thinking about what the labor force means and what the work has been done, particularly on the East Coast, or particularly in New York and the South, you can't get anything done without labor. You can't get anything done without the unions having a hand and having the leadership that they have and the leadership that they have had to be able to get things done. And I think the Long Island Federation of Labor understood that me as a union member myself, and also being a leader, being that I could bring the type of leadership that they were looking for to also ensure that at some point in time that I could also look out for the members when contracts may be provided for those union members in labor. And they think they understood that we share a commonality, which is making sure that we can take care of those union members.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm going to interrupt our discussion for a moment to bring in the host of the show, AJ Woodson, who just joined us in the green room for the last couple of minutes. Brother Woodson, how are you today, my brother? It's good to see you.
What's up? I just wanted to say what's up to my brother Darren Green, and I really wanted to come on I was with my partner today. I used to be in this group called JVC Force. For out of Central Islip, we did a record called Strong Island. And earlier today, I told everybody we did a live, and I let everybody know, this is my dude out there in Islip. Y'all have to support this cat. This is my dude. I was like, yo, look him up. Darren Green for town council. I was like, yo, look him up. Find out what he's about. Y'all got to support my dude. Yeah.
Yeah. AJ, thank you. I appreciate that. And my condolences to you, because I know you're dealing with a loss right now. So my condolences.
Thank you.
But listen, I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. You know, we've gotten a chance. We did a lot of work together.
Absolutely.
And listen, let me say this, Dr. Bob, you know, you have your own history of who you are, you know, and for your personalities and all the things you've done. And I can tell you that I am overly impressed with Black Westchester magazine and, you know, People Before Politics, the work that you've done, the audiences that you bring, the commentary that you bring, and the conversations that you have with various different topics and subjects is so incredibly enlightening that you guys, listen, and I know you've received some awards, but if I could give all of you an award right now, you know, for just being who you are, I would. You guys.
No, you can. You can. Don't say like it's not possible. It's possible. Let's do it. You know.
So we need to get you elected so you can give us a proclamation.
Exactly. So exactly. You know, that's exactly what needs to happen, because you need to be recognized for the work that you've done and the work that you're doing. You know, even though, like you said, it's in Westchester, you are standing on the battlefield and taking on key issues that are important and talking about the tough topics that people don't want to talk about, issues people don't want to deal with. Black Westchester, People Before Politics, you're dealing with it straight up front. So thank you.
I appreciate that. As you see, my phone don't want to stand up. I'm trying to put it and not hold it. It keeps sliding on the glass. But yo, I saw you, and I just want to say this. You know, Damon introduced us when I first came back from Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta now. When I first came back at 2014, we started Black Westchester. I've watched you and the progression that you've made since 2014 to now. I watched your work with Blacks in law enforcement. I watched your work out there. You know, we've come out there a few times. This brother right here, whenever we called him, whether it was in the city, whether it was in Westchester, he came, he spoke, he represented, he stood behind us. Every time we was in the struggle, you know what I'm saying? We've gone out there. I think we went to what was that with the guy who got beat up, the cop that got beat up in Western Beach, Garden City. Yeah, we all went out to Garden City.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I stand by this brother, you know, and it's like, I don't say that on a lot of people. I've watched you. I've got to know you outside of your relationship with Damon. I've got to know you, and you definitely are a man of integrity. You definitely are a brother. We shouldn't vote for people, I always say, because they're brother. We should not vote for Black people because they're Black. But you are conscious. I'd rather have a man of conscience than a man of color. And you are a man of both. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And we need people like you to start running. And we've had this conversation. Damon was used to telling you, you need to run for something. He was like, I ain't running for no office. I'm up in cookouts and you know, Charles' house and hanging out with y'all. He was like, I ain't running for no office. I'm retiring. That's what you were telling me.
You know? and you know what happens is, and it's funny that you should bring that up. You know, Dr. Bob, you know, so it's amazing, again, when you think about people, the advocacy work that we've done and not wanting to get in politics, because people look at politics as a dirty game. There's no truth into it. There's no really the substance behind it. So we always like, you know, we fight from the outside. We want to take this fight to the inside. But as you get older and you get more mature, you understand that at some point in time, you know, somebody got to do it. Somebody got to take that leap of faith, and somebody's got to step on the inside. I mean, Damon took a stab at it. You know, we supported him wholeheartedly with his run. And then so I sat back and I watched, and I said, you know what? We got to make a better effort at trying to make the changes that we want to make. You know, we did all that we could. So now Black Westchester gets to publicize the voices of the people from one position. And hopefully, for me being able to get elected, should the victory be granted to us, it gives us an opportunity to work from the inside, and also not only work from the inside, It's about showing other Black and brown men and women in law enforcement or outside entities that you can run, that you can win, that you can make a difference, that you will make a difference when you get an opportunity. And you have to be able to not be afraid. There's no reason for us to be afraid, not to be engaging enough to get into politics and be able to have a seat at the table and to help become policymakers so that we can affect the change that we want to make in our communities. It doesn't happen unless you're at the table.
Absolutely. And Eric Adams has shown us the roadmap from activist to elected official and doing some of the work that he's done from the inside. And now he may be the next New York City mayor. You know what I'm saying? But he came from that law enforcement background. He was from Damon telling it, him and Damon was out there on the front line protesting everything and fighting from the outside. And he realized that one of the things I admire about him, he realized some of us have to get on the inside and start attacking it from the inside. You know, so we're not all just hitting it from the outside, just outside throwing rocks at the building. You know what I'm saying? You need somebody in the inside, right. You know, and he was a good example of that. And I'm glad to see that you are attempting to do that. And I just want to say to everybody listening, sometimes running for an office, sometimes even in a loss, you get to debate the person who's the incumbent. You get to make them start speaking about stuff they had no intention of speaking on. You know what I'm saying? And a smart person, a smart incumbent, even if they beat you, but you had 35% of the vote, they got to look at why 35% of the people voted for you and what it was that you were talking about. Right. So, you know, that's why I want to encourage my people to run. But the other part is we as Black people have to support our candidates. We have to support with our wallets and not just our words. You understand what I'm saying? Like, why you think, you see all these elected officials and you be like, he's doing the bidding of the developer, he's doing the bid, because those are the ones who put all the money up. Black people are the only people that don't realize we have to start to do like political pacts and pull ourselves together, and we have to physically, there's a lot of candidates that would run but don't have the money to run. We have to be able to support them financially, and that's our job. You know, I just wanted to put that out there. And
listen, you're hitting the nail right on the head. And I will say, Eric Adams is a brother, a constituent. I'm looking forward to him winning his election and becoming the mayor of New York City. You know, and he's one of the guys who motivated me to get into politics. Watching his movements and watching when we were advocating and going to Albany when Eric was the senator, and having Eric help us out and speak with Damon and I, even being the host of certain dinners for us, you know, he encouraged us. And even when we got a chance to work with him, you know, his speeches and his words of wisdom, but not only his words of wisdom, but his actions and his movements have led many of us, you know, to make that transition or try to make that transition to where we need to go. And I agree with you. One thing that people really must understand, AJ, that you said is, you know, sometimes people will post and they'll say on social media, "Hey, Darren, I see that you're running. Good luck." Well, good luck don't always win races. You know, financially, we do need that financial support in order. So you got right. It is important that if we're going to help, that sometimes we understand the financial portion of helping a candidate, because you can't win elections without money. It just doesn't happen. That's the key component, you know, is relationships and money. You're raising money so that you can get your voice and your word out there. And if you don't raise any money, then it doesn't make sense. Right.
And I want to say one more thing on that is too, and I don't want to take away, we also need to look into campaign finance reform.
Yes.
Because I've seen a lot of candidates who were the better candidate, the more qualified candidate, but they were outspent immensely by a candidate that can't even hold a candle to them, but they had the money. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot of good people who can't compete because they don't have the money behind. You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to look into some kind of campaign finance reform as well. So I just want to, and I don't want to take over the conversation, but I just want to, you know, knowing that area, the town of Islip, being out there, I lived in Central Islip, I've lived in Bayshore, Brentwood, I lived in Brightwaters. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've lived in the town of Islip. So
you got it all. You're right here.
Yeah.
You're right here.
So, but the police department at all times didn't look like us, and the government officials did not look like us.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And there was never a time as a kid in Central Islip where I saw a politician and was like, yo, I could be that. Because look at that example. I ain't never seen that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you running means a lot in that area, and it's a whole lot different than when I lived there. You know, y'all got MS-13 with them that took over. They took over. So they took over. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard the third precinct scared of them, and I said it. Yep, I said it. They got the third precinct shook.
You know the precincts. You remember everything. That's good. So I
lived out there. I lived right off Islip Avenue, and right in Central Islip, right off Islip Avenue.
Right. So you right here where I'm at, because I'm right there. You know,
yeah.
And that's key, man. That's key because we did have a huge gang problem that was here. I think the police department has got a good handle on it now.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
That situation. I mean, right behind where I'm at right now, in the park is where they found a few bodies a few years ago. I can walk out of my door and make a right turn and be right at the backside of a park, which is now the PAL park. They turned it into a police activity league park. But they cut down some of the woods, but they found a few bodies back there that were gang-related murders. And so victims, so I'm glad that to work hand in hand with the police department. Town of Islip also has park rangers that they instituted a few years back. So some things that have changed, but I think there's so much more work.
And y'all have county police out there, right? There's Suffolk County Police.
Yeah, Suffolk County Police Department. You have the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department.
Right.
Does a great job too. They have an elected official in Errol Toulon. And Errol is a constituent and a counterpart from the Democratic side. He's done an outstanding job. But we just want to be able to do a better job, bring better resources. And you said something that's very, very key, is to be able to have a representative for the men and women and the young girls and boys that are in that area, to be able to say that I can grow up and I can be that guy. So for me to be a representative for that, so that they can see somebody that looks like them, I know that they too can have a seat at the table is really important. So thank you for bringing that up.
One of my favorite scenes in the play Hamilton is Aaron Burr was his jealousy over Hamilton, and because no matter what Aaron Burr did, he could never get in the room where it happened.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We have to be in the room where it happens, because we cannot just make change from outside throwing rocks. And it's good to see you running to be in the room where it happens. You know what I'm saying? And the council in every area are the legislators. You know what I'm saying? So we need representation and it's important. I mean, I haven't really spoken out there much. I speak mostly to Westchester, lower the Bronx and all that. But for my Long Island people, we need people who look like us as the legislators, who make the laws, who change the charter. I guess y'all have a charter as well, like whatever y'all call it. That's a very important position. And when nobody who looks like you has that position, a lot of times your issues and things that you're facing are not going to be addressed. Right. So I applaud you for running. I wish you well. And I know that your experience in criminal justice reform and standing, I hope you be in there, because you've been in law enforcement on that aspect for a very long time. You can speak. We don't usually have a lot of legislators that understand that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, so they can make decisions that need to be made from that point of view, and we desperately need that. So I hope that people out your area that watch this, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna share it all over Facebook and everything. I hope they see that, and I tell everybody, I'm not saying vote for this man because I said vote for this man. I want y'all to do, and I know him. I want y'all to look him up online. I want y'all to do your homework. Don't take my word for it. You know what I'm saying? You've given your website and everything, right? You did all that?
Yes, I have.
So check this brother out. Hit him on social media. Look anywhere else he's speaking at and see if he meets the values that y'all talking about. And if he represents what y'all want him to represent, y'all need to come out in full numbers and vote for this brother and put him in office, because the vote is under attack. So we need to, go ahead.
November 2nd is the general election. Early voting, I believe, across the board starts October 23rd. But we need to get the vote out. We need to get the voices out. And I agree with you that if anybody has anything that they want to address with me, that any concerns or issues, by all means, I've given my information. I'll give it to you again. Dr. Bob, you have that information. Were you able to I think Dr. Bob is muted.
Yes, he is. He is muted. Yes.
Dr. Bob, you're muted.
I said I posted the email address and the telephone number. You want to give me some additional?
Yeah, the email address and the website is D Green for iSlip.
That's the event. Yes. I'm sorry. I need to.
And that's all spelled out.
Yes. Thank you.
Green for iSlip.com.
Yes. And then I'll give you that's the shorter version of it. Hold 1 second. What happened here? Oh boy. Hello. Did I lose you guys?
No, we're here.
I'm here. We hear you.
Okay, 1 second. Something happened here. I don't know what happened. Here we go. Okay, I lost you for a second. So yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna pull up this website myself because sometimes
I'll share it.
You can go for D Green for iSlip Town Council. Again, that's the longer version. Is D Green for iSlip Town Council. That's the longer site, but we actually shortened it. That was the original version, and then we shortened it for D Green for iSlip. So people can get all the information that they want or need from there. You got it? Somebody got it there?
Yes.
Yes, Bob's on top of it today.
All right, there we go. So thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity to have an opportunity to talk about some of the issues and bring some shed some light on the situations that are here in iSlip. And be able to get to the residents so that people know that one, there is a change now. We do have councilmatic districts, and not everybody is aware that we have councilmatic districts, and that when you go out and vote on November 2nd, that depending on where you live in the town of Islip, that you have to vote in District 2. So this gives us an opportunity to continuously, get that word out there so people know that I'm a representative in their particular area.
What for anybody that doesn't know, what is District 2? What does that cover?
District 2 covers Central Islip,
that's where I was.
Bohemia, Great River, North Great River, East Islip, Islip Terrace, Oakdale, and West Sayville.
Oh wow, that's a whole lot.
It's the largest district. It's the largest of the 4 districts that have been created into councilmatic districts. When I tell you, I'm so looking forward to working with each and every individual that's throughout each one of the smaller towns inside the town within the district, to be able to really bring home the issues that need to be addressed, because I think it's been a divide way too long. And again, some of the residents that I've spoken with, north and south, have some key issues, and the key issue is the lack of communication that the town has provided to its residents.
Is there any questions as we come to the close of the show? Is there any questions that we didn't ask you that you want to tell the people? Is there any information that you want people to know either about you or about your candidacy or why they should vote for you?
I think it's important. What I want people to know is that, again, I stated to Dr. Bob, that my slogan is my campaign slogan, and what I'm riding on is that I'm with the people and I'm for the people. And what that means is that I'm not afraid to come out and knock on your door and get in the trenches with you. I'm not afraid to come figure out what it is that you want as taxpayers in the town and within the district. I'm willing to fight the fights with you. I'm willing to walk with you. I'm willing to go to the schools with you. I'm willing to bring whatever issues that you may have. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to come to a meeting, on whatever day or night that it may be hosted. If you need me, you call me, I'll come to you. Because it's important for people to have access. And when you're having an issue, I want to be able to grant them the opportunity to have access to me so that I could be able to hear what they have to hear, what the issues that they have to address, and be able to take those issues back. And one thing I will say is we're not going to be able to address all of the issues and circumstances that people may have. The thing I want people to really understand is that even though you may have an issue, and if it's an issue that we can't fix, at least I'm going to get back to you and explain to you why we can't fix this issue at this particular time. And I think that's what people want. Okay, I want my lawn fixed, or I want my sidewalks to be redone. okay, guess what? It's not in the budget this year for your sidewalks to be done, but we're working on it, and maybe we can get back to you within next year. I think it's important to get back to people on whatever their issue may be, not just leave them out there without having some type of correspondence or response backwards. And I think that is the key component that separates me from any other candidate or my particular opponent, is that I'm a communicator, and I want to communicate to my residents, and I want to be able to help them get what they need, not push away from what they need.
I'm going to say a couple of words. I was only supposed to come on for like 5-10 minutes, and I actually stayed. I want to say two things. I love your commercial where you up at the front of the town hall, you take off the jacket. You're not afraid to get your hands dirty. You know what I'm saying? And that was dope imagery. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I just want to publicly thank Dr. Bob. At last minute, he took over. Lorraine had a medical emergency with her family and couldn't appear there. Damon, his granddaughter's birthday's today, and he thought it was yesterday, so he couldn't make it at the last minute because Montika had him running around the Bronx getting three-tier cakes or something.
Right. Well, they bake it all in your own cakes.
yeah. So Bob held it down. I saw bits and pieces of it, and I just wanted to shout my brother because he be holding me down. I just want to shout my brother for a job well done. With that, I'm gonna let y'all wrap up. I'm out, but thank you, Darren. Please keep us informed with what's going on in your race, and
yes,
even though we're Black Westchester, please utilize us, to get information out. You know what I'm saying? And
yes.
So we can start covering some more of the issues that our people are facing up there too.
All right, thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, Bob, I'm out. Bob, I'm gonna let you wrap up.
Okay, very good, AJ.
Oh wait, but last thing. Thank you, everybody, for your condolences. I'm hearing from everybody: phone calls, text messages, social media. Thank you. I greatly appreciate you. And with that, I'm out. Peace.
Peace, everybody. Peace, AJ.
Peace, AJ.
So listen, brother Green, it's the show's officially over, brother. We could go on for far longer.
Yes, I appreciate the questions. You gave me some really tough questions, but I think those tough questions are required, the answers that were appropriate to respond, because, a lot of times people will come on and they want to tap dance around some things. And I'm glad that you asked the right questions and some of the tough questions. And hopefully I gave out the appropriate answers, but I'm not shying away from those questions. So thank you for being who you are.
Well, thank you for being on air, Brother Green. I enjoyed our discussion. I hope that we've raised the issue of your candidacy for viewers and people out on Long Island. And I urge everyone to get behind this man's campaign, not only with your dollars, but also volunteer some time besides casting the vote if you think that he can do a fair and effective job of representing Central Islip.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, everyone, listen, I'm not going to hold you all up. I'm going to tell y'all I don't know how to do the outro either, everyone. So I am just going to say we appreciate you guys being here with us, spending your Sunday evening with us. We look forward to returning at our regularly scheduled time next week. And until then, everyone, peace.